in her own way. She was a very woman, an extraordinarily beautiful woman, and she had some qualities that were very unique to her. She was also her heart. She was very quick to be hurt if someone said something to her or said something about her, and she was frequently subjected to attacks by the other wives of the Prophet ﷺ, and this was based on because of her ethnicity, being a non-Arab. So this is something that many people may be able to relate to. And the story of Safiya radiallahu anha begins when she was a child. Her uncle was a man called Abu Yasir, and her father was called Huyay ibn Akhtar. And so her name was Safiya ibn Huyay. And her father and her uncle were enemies of the Prophet. She said that when I was a child, I was a favorite child of my father and my uncle because of her beauty and because of her habits, and every time they would see her, they would pick her up and they would hug her and they would kiss her. One day my family went to see the Rasul. So her uncle and her father went to see the Prophet, and she said when they were coming back, I knew that they would come to me and hold me, and having been away from me, she said I coming, they completely ignored me. It was completely out of the ordinary behavior. They didn't pick me up, they didn't hold me, and she said I was very confused that my uncle was like this and my father was like this. She said I began to pay special attention to what they were saying. Now, this is something that she told the Prophet. She became Muslim, and when she married the Prophet, which would come at the age of 17. But this incident she recalled having occurred 10 years before that. So she knew about the Prophet since her childhood, and she was at that time. She said, I began to listen very intently to what they were saying. And my father and my uncle had returned from Kuba. In Kuba is where her father and her husband met with the Prophet. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the Yahud in the Quran, and he tells the Prophet that even though they deny you, they know you better than they know their own children. That when my father and uncle were returning from Kuba, I heard him say to my Prophet, to say to my father, is it really him? We asked her, said, is it really him? And she said, my father said, yes, it's really him. So the father said, yeah, it's him. He is the foretold. And so the uncle then said to the father, can you confirm that it's him? And the father said, yes, I confirm that it really is him. He is a prophet from Allah, from the non-Arabs. And so then the uncle said, I will be his enemy for as long as I live. So the father recognized the prophet. The father confirmed that the prophet was a genuine prophet. But when the uncle asked, what should we do become his followers? The father said, no, I will continue to be his enemy for as long as I live. So this is something that Safiya knew about Prophet from the very beginning, that he was a genuine prophet in life. He would continue to oppose him. Now, 10 years on, she's living in Khaybar. Now she's 17, a beautiful young woman. She gets married to a man his name is made the mistake of telling him about a dream that she had. This is Sabina. She saw a full moon, and then this bright moon continued to drift towards Khaybar, and when it came to Khaybar, the moon fell into her lap. So she said to her husband, moon over Medina, and then the moon kind of moved toward Khaybar and it fell into my lap. So the husband, he found it, he said, this means that you desire, he accused her of having a bad character. He says that you desire the king of the Arabs, Muhammad, and he struck her. And he struck her so hard that when she met the Prophet, she had that mark on her face. And so the Prophet asked her, what happened to you? And that's when she told him the story that man killed my father. Now, her husband had struck her. Her husband was among the people that were killed when Khaybar was captured, and she was among those that were captured, and she was slain by one of the companions. It was Dihya al-Kalbi. Dihya al-Kalbi was he was from the Sahaba, and he was so handsome. It was said that when Jibreel alayhi salam took a human form, Jibreel used to resemble Dihya. So Dihya was so handsome that when he took human form, he looked angelic in his appearance. And so Safiya radiallahu anha fell into his lot. So she was among his prisoners. I'm sure he intended to marry her, but when she relayed his dream to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet told Dihya that this is that she is intended to be somebody for me. So he told Dihya that you should take her cousin in marriage in Khaybar, and Rasulullah does not force himself on her, does not force her into marriage. He says to her, he doesn't even make her into a permissible in Islam. But even then, even though it's allowed, Rasulullah told her, he said that if you of setting her free. He said, if you want to become a Muslim, then I would like to take you as my wife. But if you choose not to become a Muslim and remain a Jew, then you are free. So in either case, she would not be taken as a prisoner. And she said to Rasulullah, I choose Allah and His Messenger, meaning that she accepted Islam and she became a wife of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now, there are other stories about Safiya that are not mentioned here. One of them is that when Safiya became a wife of the Prophet the other wife of the Prophet was sometimes very jealous of her. Sometimes she was called Jewish, even though she was not a Jew, she was a Muslim. Sometimes they made fun of her because of her height, even though she was very beautiful, she was short. And so they would say things about her. When the Prophet later on, when he was in his final illness, Safiya, when she saw him, Rasulullah was allowed to stay in the house of Aisha, and other wives gave up their permission for him. But when Safiya saw him and he was in extreme pain because fever causes infection and you have body aches all over, Safiya said, Ya Rasulullah, I wish that I were in your place. It just came out of her. She said, I wish that I was dying and you were okay. And when the other wives saw her saying that, they looked at each other and they kind of winked at each other. Like, look at what she's saying just to look good. And Rasulullah said, I saw what you were doing with your eyes. I swear by Allah that what she said was the truth. She wasn't saying it just to look good or to look better than the rest of you. I saw what you did with the Prophet. And she said that she was very sincere in what she had done. So Safiya was somebody who was always subject. Another story about Safiya is that one time the other because of her Jewish heritage, and the Prophet saw her and she was crying and she was very soft hearted, and the Prophet asked her, why are you crying? They called me a Jew, or they made fun of my lineage because I'm not an Arab. And so next time they make fun of you, tell them that Harun alayhi salam is your father, and tell them that Musa alayhi salam is your uncle, and that you are married to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And say that to them and they will never be able to make fun of him. So every time that Rasulullah saw her, they objected to mockery or a form of discrimination by others, and because of his he would always boost her and give her that confidence. So the conversion of Safiya, I'm going to share those stories with you, also happened during the conquest of Khaybar. There's one more story about a companion in our conclusion of